Good morning and welcome to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. I'm here, Sean tonight, and Sheriff, so good to be back at the desk with you. You know, we've had a lot of things happening in our area lately.
Yeah, we certainly have. The new year started out with a bang, as it usually does, and but we're prepared. I'm really excited about the fact that we're working cooperatively together with our other law enforcement agencies. We have a plan going into 2022 that focuses on service in our community, and the first part of service is dealing with these crimes that we're seeing. Particularly the burglaries and auto thefts. Those continue to plague us, but we are going to really this year get to the nitty-gritty and get some folks arrested and off our streets.
Yeah, we talk a lot about the crime rate. You know, every year the UCR report comes out and we look at that, and really these vehicle burglaries, it's a driving force on those rates.
Yeah, the people focus on obviously the big murder type situations, but in terms of our crime rate, in terms of UCR reports, those are mostly driven, quite honestly, by the large numbers of burglaries and thefts that we have in our community. And that's something that we can all play a part in. That's why we talk about the 9 o'clock routine and what citizens can do helping us to drive that crime rate down. But more importantly, though, we've got to send a message to those folks out there who want to be involved in crime, breaking in the cars, breaking into homes, that we're going to be out there on the roadways, making sure we get you into custody and get you away from our community. Yeah,
we're going to talk on today's show a lot about what are the trends we're seeing now when it comes to vehicle burglaries. What are they doing? What are they targeting? But before we get into that, you know, you talked about the vehicle burglaries versus the murderers or the harder crimes, but a lot of times these vehicle burglaries lead to the bigger crimes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's part of the problem that we've got is that, you know, you break into a car that's parked and the person didn't lock the car, and so there's a gun in the vehicle. That gun now is in the hands of a young person who's involved in crime, and that gun takes the dynamics all different directions. Now we're talking about perhaps another break-in, we're talking about shootings on the street, and we're talking about people being killed. So from that one preventable event, a burglary where a car was actually left open, we could have prevented perhaps those other crimes from taking place. And that's the message we've got to get across to our citizens. Know this, we're going to go after those folks involved in crime. We're going to do everything we can to get them off the streets, but do the simple things that we can do ourselves, and that's lock our cars.
That's right. Simple indeed, but a lot of times it doesn't happen. So lock it or lose it. Coming up in today's show, we're going to tell you about the latest trends in vehicle burglaries. But first, let's check in with Sergeant McMillan with our Crime Tip Tuesday.
Hello, everyone. This is Sergeant Shade McMillan with the Leon County Sheriff's Office, and here's today's Crime Tip Tuesday. We carry around many keys for our home, vehicle, and other areas we want to keep secure. Here are some tips to keeping those out of the hands of thieves. Never leave a spare key concealed anywhere near the front door. That's the first place a burglar looks. Leave a key with a trusted friend or neighbor. Never give service people a house key. Arrange to have someone home. Never label house keys. If lost, they provide valuable information to a stranger. When using valet services, leave only the vehicle key with the attendant. It eliminates the opportunity to duplicate house keys. Stay safe.
Joining me now is Detective Deshaun Barnes. Detective Barnes, you work in our property crimes unit, so you know a lot about the vehicle burglaries that are taking place in our community. From your perspective, how are we going to get a handle on this?
We need people to start locking the cars, taking everything out of the cars like IDs, wallets, or firearms, anything valuable. We need to take out the car and make sure the car door is locked before we go inside the house. We also have this Leon County app, also they need to get that. And 9 p.m. routine, it helps out a lot. We're going to make sure we do our best to solve all those crimes, but we need the help of the citizens as well by making sure all doors are locked and all valuables out of the car.
Can we give the citizens out there watching the program a sense of how bad is this problem in our community?
Well, let's start off by 2022, the month of January, we had over 150 burglaries, auto burglaries in Leon County.
Just 1 month? We had how many?
150. And with those 150, we had 21 firearms stolen out of vehicles. That's unlocked, smash and grabs. But if you think about it, that's almost 1 firearm per day. It's just January 25th. So we need help with making sure the cars are locked and getting firearms out of the vehicles.
So the cars with the vehicles in it is probably the biggest problem we've got.
Yes.
That's how the guns get in the hands of the criminals out there.
Yes, sir. Most definitely. We starting to see we see adults. They more so looking for the quick cash, and credit cards and stuff like that. Juveniles are more so looking for firearms, so they can use for other crimes.
So, in other words, sometimes our citizens unknowingly are helping the folks, the kids out there, particularly in gangs, get the weapons that they are using in the streets.
Exactly, because I interview a lot of juveniles about auto burglaries, and the first thing they tell you, I need something to feel safe. And with them going into cars that's unlocked and they're seeing firearms, that's the first thing they grab.
Yeah, you're talking about our youth now. With respect to the pandemic, a lot of kids out of school. School's been disrupted. At least last year it was. Talk about the pandemic. How has it impacted this crime?
Well, it's harder for us, to solve the crime now because, like I said, these juveniles now are wearing masks. Wearing dark colored hoodies. So them going to vehicles, we're not getting good latent prints off the vehicles. Some of these kids are not in our system, so we don't know who they are. It's hard to see who these kids are because we get grainy videos from neighbors and things like that. So just make sure making sure our videos are working, making sure the car doors are locked. But like you said, the pandemic hurt us a lot when it comes to solving these cases because of those aspects.
Yeah, the kids, the problem, the adults, the cars that are left open, and then we're talking about how do we now try to roll this back, and how do we now make sure that we're getting the information out? Now, we do the 9 o'clock routine. Talk about the 9 o'clock routine and why it's so important, and what other things can our citizens do?
The 9 o'clock routine is perfect because for me, I use it. I use it every day. I use it for my personal vehicle, my work vehicle. I make sure I go outside and I check my doors. I leave my key fob inside the house because when you go to your car with the key fob, you unlock the door mistakenly, thinking you're trying to unlock, you locking the door. So the 9 routine helps. Also, if you see something, you hear something in your neighborhood, call, because that could be somebody breaking into one of your neighbor's cars. Don't hesitate. Don't wait till the next morning to call, because some of these burglaries that's happening, we could have caught them on scene, and now we wait till the last minute. Now it's harder for us to locate that juvenile, that adult, or whoever it might be, because of the fact we don't have that good video. We don't have that great description of that suspect. So we need to continue to help ourselves by making sure the doors are locked, helping our neighbors, make sure our video is running, cameras are running, and calling in as soon as we hear something.
Well, Detective Barnes, thank you and your team. I know you guys work hard out there each and every day trying to make sure we're getting these people off our streets. And this 9 o'clock routine, we're going to talk about that a whole lot more, obviously, this year, because we believe that is the way we get these crimes brought to where we can solve some of these problems. We can just deal with this 9 o'clock routine. So thank you so much for your team.
No problem.
And when we come back, what you need to know about the key fobs for your vehicle. Stay tuned. We're back with Detective Barnes of our Property Crimes Unit. Detective, are you seeing any hot spots out there that we need to make the community aware of?
Yeah, we're getting a lot of auto burglaries in apartment complexes, college apartment complexes, more so on the Monroe corridor, down side, on the south side, on Orange Avenue and South Monroe, those areas. The thing about it is, with these hot spots, they change due to the fact that one set of criminals want to go to the other side of town. And as of right now, it's kind of mixing all over the place. But the hotspots that we're seeing now is more so in the college complexes, because it's a big parking lot area. More vehicles they can go into that might be unlocked.
Yeah, before we took the break, you talked about the key fobs, and you said you make sure with your key fob. Talk to our viewers out there. What's your concern relative to key fobs and burglaries?
Yeah, key fobs, they run off batteries. So sometimes, you might try to lock it from the house and all doors is not locked. So for me, I go outside, I leave my key fob inside the house, and I go and check my door handles to make sure they're locked. Because if you take that key fob with you, you're really unlocking the door instead of checking the door and see if they're locked or not.
Okay.
So that might be some things too. And also we see people leaving key fobs in the car with the car running, and that's when we come to getting vehicle thefts. Also leaving the firearms in there. So now they have a firearm along with your car because you left the key fob in there.
Yeah,
so
you gave them everything they
you
need.
gave everything they need to get away.
Right.
So that's everything we have about the key fobs at this moment.
Okay. Now there's something called STAR. Can you talk about what that STAR is and what that means?
So we have a OnStar system that tracks cars. The thing about it is as a citizen, we might have got to make sure we put that on our vehicle. For new model vehicles, we have to pay a price for that. But some people don't have those, and that's easy for us to track your vehicle if it was stolen or anything like that. Some people don't use that, utilize that technology. So we want you to go ahead and utilize that technology, so it helps us to track down criminals that might be using your car involved in another crime.
Okay, we're talking about OnStar then.
Yeah.
The OnStar
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
application for most of the vehicles out there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what other helpful tips can we give the viewers, particularly about these auto thefts and auto burglaries?
Make sure you check your doors. Make sure the car's locked. Make sure all your valuables out. Make sure your cameras are working properly. Check with your neighbors. You know your neighbors, send them a text. Remind them to check the doors, because everything that we're doing right now is going to help us in the long run to combat crime in 2022.
Let's talk a minute about what was the number of burglaries we had in 1 month?
We had 150 burglaries.
Okay.
As of yesterday.
Now, were those occurring mostly in the hotspot areas?
Hotspot areas, and also some in Northeast Cologne area, but most of them happen more so the south side of Leon County, which is by the airport, Orange Avenue, South Monroe. Then we also have some of it in the Northwest area, which is Lake Jackson area to the Monroe corridor. Now,
we just finished the Christmas season, the holiday season, if you will. And we previously talked about the young persons getting out, walking neighborhoods, going door to door. Is that still occurring?
Yes, sir. It's still occurring, but now what they're trying to do now, they're just trying to see if somebody's home or not. So now they figure that somebody's not home. Now it's easy for them to go around and check your door handle and make sure, see if your door is unlocked or not, so they can go inside your car.
So we want to make sure not only are they locking their cars, but they're taking care and locking their homes as well.
Home door as well. Just like we say, you wouldn't leave, your keys in your house, in your house door. Don't leave your keys in your car. So it helps out. It helps out in the long run.
Well, again, I know the work that you and your team do out there in our community. And if we get one thing across to the citizens out there, we really have to focus on making sure we do the things that we can do as citizens that allow law enforcement to do their jobs more effective. Thank you so much, Detective Barnes, for the work you do and your team.
No problem, Sheriff.
Coming up in our Deputy on Duty, they do a lot more than write traffic tickets. Learn more about the operations of our traffic unit. Stay tuned.
It's one thing in the traffic union, you have to be flexible. Things can change really quickly. The days can vary a lot. Obviously, one of the big things we focused, and probably one of the most important things we do as a traffic unit, is we investigate THIs, SBIs, which are traffic homicides and serious bodily injury crashes. When we're investigating those crashes, whether there's a criminal element to it or there's not, and it's just bad luck or bad driving or whatever else, but somebody's been killed or severely injured, I think that's probably the most important, where we can at least maybe give the family some closure to say, hey, this is basically what happened, and if there is able to be charges, if it is a criminal case, we can bring charges against somebody for causing that person to be harmed or killed. You're using marks on the road, you're using actual what's called crush damage on the vehicle. We're getting information off the vehicles. So like the vehicle is recording, with modern vehicles they're recording, how fast the vehicle, and certain vehicles record more, certain vehicles record less. So we're actually getting data from those actual cars, using videos if there's any kind of security cameras of local businesses, so we can piece it together multiple different ways and put you're just putting all of it that you can get together, because not every single crash is not going to leave you perfect skid marks or perfect this to be able to measure, or marks. So you look for, can I get some video to see of how fast the car is going, or what will the car give me itself? So there's multiple things that you're putting all together and looking for in each investigation. We also investigate the daily, all our hit and runs that happen in the county. If patrol can't solve them, or they don't have anything and it's further follow-up needed, those all get sent to us. So that's also part of our daily thing, is once we get assigned hit and runs, we'll go try and get video, try and find out who was actually driving to see if we can come up and get charges and solve the hit and run accident. So you just have to be ready to go, okay, this is put aside, keep good notes, keep what you're doing compartmentalized, and then go to it if you have. You just have to be flexible. The other thing that kind of often pops up is when you see us escorting people around or escorting different things around on motors. A lot of times, if we have a fallen deputy from other agencies or even politicians, anybody that comes in, stuff will often come up last minute and we'll get requests for doing an escort. So ourselves, TPD and FSU will join us because we need all the motors, and we'll go end up putting a plan together and go and doing escorts. So if we're working certain speed areas or where we're having complaints, we could either be on our patrol cars running laser or radar, or we might be using our motorcycles to use laser or radar. There's places where it's more convenient to have the car, just because I have more equipment obviously with the car, depending on what I'm doing. The motor's a lot, if it's an escort or something traffic related in that sense, the motor's what we're gonna use. It also depends sometimes on weather. If it's super wet and rainy and it's going to be a lot more of a risk to be on the motorcycle, then we try not to sit there. I mean, we do escorts, we have rain gear, and there's times you just ride through it and you have to deal with the weather. But if we can, well, a lot of times we'll choose to take a car where you're not trying to put yourself at that extra risk, because you are, again, on only 2 wheels instead of 4. It really just depends on what you're doing. There's a lot of places when we're doing traffic that it's easier to hide this motorcycle. One, people don't realize it's a police vehicle. It's a lot harder to spot this as a police vehicle. It's also a lot easier to put this. I can put this on a sidewalk. I can put this in a lot of places where I cannot put a full-size patrol car. So it enables you to do traffic and run traffic a lot easier with this motorcycle than with a patrol car. You're taking a motorcycle that weighs close to 1,000 pounds and doing a lot of things with it that it's not designed nor wants to do. So it's something that you have to have a lot of perseverance for, because you're going to end up dropping this motorcycle a whole bunch of times in training when you're in that training, learning how to ride it and learn it to do it. All that training, though, is then building you towards things that you see in escorts. I mean, escorts are a high-risk thing because we are riding at a very fast pace to get in front of whatever our package is. So we're passing that package to go get and block traffic for it so it never stops rolling. So you're riding these motorcycles at a high rate of speed. While that is also one of the most fun parts of the job, it is also a very risky part of the job. So you do have a lot of training, and all that training we do goes in towards how to avoid it, what to happen if you're having to lock up your brakes, going through tight places. I mean, there's lots of times where you're putting this motorcycle and you only have a couple inches of clearance between either cars or other stuff that you're fitting it through. And you do all that training and cone work and all that, so you learn how to do all that for real life stuff. While the cones and like the rodeo stuff that you see us do, while it is fun and is an enjoyable part of it, it's all based on and built on working towards real world situations that we run into. So you know how to be better, more proficient, and safer on the motorcycle.
Welcome back to Leon County Today with Sheriff Walt McNeil. Sheriff, we've had a full show today, and seeing our traffic unit and all of the things that they do, you know, a lot of people see those sirens flashing and they get really tense, but a lot of times it's an education component they want to pass along.
Oh, our traffic unit does so much more than doing simple traffic. We get calls all the time, particularly Thomasville Road area, subdivisions, and they want to make sure that when they put the rumble strips out, they'd like for us to come out and assess whether or not rumble strips could help in terms of deterring the people who are speeding on streets. We go into neighborhoods and talk with those neighborhood associations about their speed in the area, and just working with neighbors, trying to make sure traffic flows in the appropriate way is most of what our traffic unit does. But if we have to, we'll write those tickets.
So I watch that speed for sure. And then back around to our Lock It or Lose It campaign. It's so important, and there's so many tools out there for people to take advantage of these days.
I absolutely are. You know, as you just said, the technology out there, there's no excuse really.
And Sheriff, talking about our Lock It or Lose It campaign, there's so many resources out there that people can take advantage of, and it's so important to do that.
It absolutely is, and quite honestly, there's no excuse why we can't do a better job in terms of taking care of our vehicles. It is so important to the men and women of law enforcement that we have our community engaged with us. We have a plan, and that plan, 50% of that plan is driven by our citizens being engaged with us in terms of getting the crime down and keeping our community safe. And as Detective Barnes talked about, getting access to those weapons really is the key to our keeping this community safe and stop the shootings. And none of these people who are involved in crimes are going out and buying these weapons. They're stealing weapons from us.
Responsible gun ownership, so very important.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sheriff, and thank you all for joining us for another episode of Leon County Today. We'll see you back here next week.